So, good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Ready Penny Cook. Today, we are going to be doing a Victoria sponge. Now, the reason I've chosen a Victoria sponge, it's on the surface, it's a very basic recipe. It's nothing too complex. You've got things like measuring things, obviously, but on the whole, it's quite easy. And that reminds me, I just need to preheat my oven. I'll just explain that in a bit. So, what I'll also explore is the direction you can take the Victoria sponge. We will do a classic Victoria sponge, but we'll also look at other things that you can do with it. So before I go any further, a bit of a disclaimer. This is my kitchen. I haven't got my proper YouTube set up, and one of the things that's a little bit different is I'm having to wear my headphones. Unfortunately, my headphones don't reach all the way to the fridge. So when I need to go over there, I will need to just sort of apologize, take my headphones off, and just go and do what I need to do. Also, this is obviously coming from my house. I'm not sure how good my noise cancelling headphones are. There are other people living in the house, so you may occasionally hear some noise. That's just people living their normal lives. And there's nothing I don't want to do anything about it. I want people to go about their lives. So obviously, yeah, be aware there's other people around. So I have managed to put the recipe that I'm going to use in the description, but I've actually got two recipes. The first recipe I've got is from the BBC Good Food site, and they've called it Granny's Victoria Sponge. And they go on about 200 grams of butter, 200 grams of caster sugar, 4 medium eggs, 200 grams of self-raising flour. Now, if anybody is watching this in America, could they tell me? I know that with plain flour, the Americans call it all-purpose flour. Do you have a different name for self-raising flour? I'm not sure. So if you could tell me that, that would be handy. You also want a bit of raspberry jam, double cream, and some icing sugar. Now you may notice there's a common theme there. You use the same quantities of butter, self-raising flour, and sugar. You actually use the same quantity of egg as well, which is why I've gone for the recipe from the Women's Institute. Now, I see the Women's Institute. I'm not a member of them. I don't have anything to do with them, but I see them as they do the everyday stuff, but they want to do it to a very good standard. I know that some of their competitions they do this, it's a real, like when they do the jam making contest, for example, it's really stiff competition. So I really trust their recipe, and I really like the format of it. So the way that the recipe is written out is 3 medium eggs weighed in their shells. Now I'm actually going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to weigh the eggs out of the shells, not in the shells. I was meant to be doing this last week, but I fell ill. And I actually did the recipe exactly as the Women's Institute said. It came out a little bit dry and a little bit crusty on the outside. And because one of the stages is to wait for the cake to cool, we don't have time to wait for it to cool because obviously we're doing a live show. So I've made one in advance, which is nice and cool. I made that this morning, and I actually made. So I've just seen Fleetwood J. So Fleetwood J, yes, said, did someone say cake? Yum yum. We did say cake. So the change I made this morning was a bit of an experiment. I weighed the eggs out of the shells, which obviously would make the moisture a little bit more, would make the mixture a little bit more wet. And I found it's not come out as crusty. It's come out what I would call a good cake. So we then need, whatever the eggs weigh, we need that weight in butter or soft margarine. I'm going to use butter. We then need that weight in caster sugar, and then we need that weight in self-raising flour. So obviously when we say a medium egg, your definition of medium might be different from mine. The eggs that you buy might be different. I know Tesco's do some everyday value eggs. They're normal eggs, they're good eggs, but they're small. So what's a medium egg, how many medium eggs, how many small eggs make a medium egg. And so I like this because you weigh the eggs. The last thing we need is raspberry jam. Now, you will see recipes that say to put strawberry jam in, this, that, and the other. Now, the one thing I do know about the Women's Institute is that they consider a Victoria sponge to have raspberry jam. If it hasn't got raspberry jam, it's not considered by them to be a Victoria sponge. However, when you're making this at home, you put what you want in. So if you don't like raspberry jam, perhaps put strawberry jam in. I will be using raspberry jam because I want to make it as per the recipe. And if you compare it to the BBC recipe, the Granny's Victoria sponge, they put double cream in. And I must admit, double cream and jam is an extremely nice cake. But we're going to keep this nice and simple to the basics. So the first thing we need to do is preheat the oven. Now, the recipe says preset oven to gas mark 4, 160 degree for fan oven, or 180 degrees. I've actually done this to 150. Everybody's oven is different. As you get to know your ovens, you'll know how to adjust. So I'm going to say 160 degrees for a fan oven and 180 for non-fan. But on my oven, it's a little bit different. So let me just get these trays out. Whoops, too late, they're already hot. So I have a habit of burning my fingers every time I use this oven. I did a pizza last week and I burnt the fingertip. Actually, they can stay in there. Right, so I'm not going to be using my top-down camera because I'm not cooking in anything on the hob. And I really would like some feedback on this. I'm trying a slightly, that's the camera angle I'm not using. So I'd like some feedback. I've tried to raise this camera up a little bit because obviously we're looking into bowls. So normally I'd have the camera a little bit lower and you can see what I'm doing, but this time I'm using bowls. So first thing I need to do is get my eggs, which I keep on top of the fridge. So I'll just catch that comment when I come back. So just give me 2 seconds. Right, so I'll get my scales out. I've got one of these posh sets of scales where I can set them to 0. Most of them do. So pop your bowl on, set it to 0. I've got this set for grams, but if you want to do ounces, you can use ounces. And it says 3 medium eggs weighed in their shells will probably be 6 ounces to 170 grams. Sorry, 6 ounces or 170 grams. So what that means to me is that I'm going to just keep cracking eggs until we've got approximately 170 grams. If we end up with more than 170 grams, then we put more butter and more eggs. More caster sugar and more flour in. And obviously, if we put a little bit less, then we'll put less. So I need something to crack my eggs with. And a knife sounds really good to me. So the eggs that I'm using, these come from a local supermarket called Iceland. They're 12 mixed-sized eggs. They're half the price of the other eggs that they sell. Now, these ones have come from caged hens. If you have standards and you want to use free range, that's absolutely fine. But these are obviously eggs on a budget. I'm quite happy to use them. So obviously make sure that there's no eggshell in there. Now that egg has come out at 46 grams. So I think we might be using 4 eggs for this. You won't be able to see the scales. I do apologize. No, I don't think you can. So that's 93 grams. So this is the 3 eggs that they've recommended. It's come out 136 grams, 137. So I'm going to put the 4th one in. But this is what I mean. You know, the eggs that you get, actually it's 183 grams. So the one I made previously came out 194. So you've got to, or 181. Now, if you're like me and you've got a really bad memory, write that down because that figure is going to become important. So 182. So that's me eggs ready. You'll see I use lots of different bowls. This is partly to make it easier to show you what I'm doing. Also because I use everything there is in the kitchen. I've said to you guys before, I'm a messy cook, but I do clean up. And I know some people would have a problem with that, but I really don't. So the recipe says to use unsalted butter. I'm using salted, and the reason I'm using salted is because they didn't have any unsalted butter. It's really that simple. But the reason I did look up how bad it would be to use salted butter, and salt does two things in butter. The first of all, it just brings out a little bit of flavor. When they say salted, they don't mean they put like 50 grams per 100 grams of salt in there. It just means there's a little bit, but it also acts as a preservative. So it just means you don't need to keep this in the fridge, whereas unsalted probably I would. Now I've got this at room temperature, and I'm going to put 181 grams in there, which I know is going to be over half a packet. And I'm just going to keep chucking bits of butter in. I'm almost there now. That's probably going to be too much. Ah, 181 exactly. And then we will, where's my caster sugar? I've lost my caster sugar. So we want 181 grams of caster sugar in the same bowl as the butter. Now I can either reset that, or I can just be really clever and work out what 181 is twice, which is 362. Does that sound right? So, but I've reset it this time. So caster sugar. Now caster sugar is basically granulated sugar that's just been ground down a little bit more. It's still granular, but it's a bit finer than granulated sugar. So if you can't get sugar, caster sugar, you could, or if you've got a blender, oops, that's too much. That's actually way too much. There we go, 181. So I've got 181 grams of butter, 181 grams of caster sugar. Now, like I said, my butter is at room temperature. The reason I'm keeping it at room temperature is we now need to cream this together. If your butter was refrigerated, that would be very hard now, and this job will become a lot harder to do. So just trying to show you what I'm doing. All I'm doing is when I get some butter, rub it into the sugar, and you're just mixing it together. And then this is probably going to be the most, well, it won't actually, but this is one of the strenuous bits. So like you see some sugar down there. You can't see that, I'm sorry. So we'll get some butter on the back of the spoon and rub that into the sugar. And we're just going to keep rubbing it until it's all nicely mixed. Lovely. That's gone in really nice. So I'm going to give that a big mix now. And there we go. So we've got kind of a nice cream. Now, if you like this, you can actually use that as a cake filling. So whereas Granny's Victoria sponge is saying to use double cream, you could use that as a cake filling. You could perhaps add some flavoring to it if you wanted, maybe a bit of vanilla. You can put vanilla in if you want. That'll just give it a nice little bit of a flavor. But I'm keeping this nice and simple. Right, so that's the butter done. The next thing we want to do is whisk our eggs if we haven't already. Because obviously we can't chuck those in. While I'm doing that, I'll just do a quick catch up on the chat. So Fleetwood J says, I use McDougall's Supreme Sponge Flour available in supermarkets. I like stewed apples and cream in my Victoria sponge. Stewed apples sound extremely nice. I like the sound of that. Danielle says looks good. And yeah, Fleetwood J just confirmed what I said. It does enhance the flavour. It just brings the flavour out a little bit. So we've done my eggs. Just whisk them up like you would for an omelette or anything like that. And I'm going to add, I'm aiming to add sort of a quarter to a third of the eggs into the mix. That's probably a little bit too much. And then we're just going to gently mix that up. Oh, sorry, I just need to do something before I start. I need to get my flour ready. And there's a reason I get it ready before I need it. So I'm having, there we go. So self-raising flour. Sorry guys, I should have got this ready beforehand. 1 spoon. So 181 grams of self-raising. So remember, it's the same weight as the eggs, same weight as the butter, same weight as the caster sugar. I cannot believe how much flour I've got through in the last couple of weeks. That's way too much. I think digital scales are a double-edged sword. If you've got a little dial, you have to estimate obviously 180 or something, but when it's digital, you get it more precise. Right. So eggs going into the butter and sugar mix, and we just want to mix that together. It will be difficult to mix, and the more egg you put in at the first stage, the more difficult it will be to mix. The egg just really doesn't want to emulsify with the butter. I'm afraid that's just the way it is. I'm going to use a spoon because I'm going to need a spoon to do the next stage anyway. So this is going to curdle. Sometimes this will curdle, and it's probably because you put too much egg in. But to be honest with you, I wanted it to curdle today for the simple reason that I can show you how to recover it. So curdling is when it kind of keeps separate. It doesn't want to mix together, and it, so you can see there, I don't know if you can see it well, that's curdled. There is a really simple way to actually recover that. And you get some of your flour and put about a spoonful, 2 spoonfuls, and just start to mix that together. This is why I needed to measure the flour beforehand, because I couldn't put some flour in and then estimate how much I've used. So can you see there that I've recovered it by adding a bit of flour? The flour helps emulsify the eggs and the butter. So that's mixed nicely. So add a little bit more of the egg. We're aiming to, well, I'm going to do this in 3 sections now, but I really wanted to do it in sort of four goes. Now this one might go again because I put a little bit too much egg in. We'll see how it goes. And like I say, this is where you get a bit of a workout. So if you've got kids, maybe they'd like to test their He-Man powers. Yeah, that's curdled again. That's or separated. Curdle isn't a bad word. You know, if your milk curdles in your coffee, that's a bad thing. But in this sense, curdling just means that the things that are mixing together aren't mixing together. So just pop a little bit of flour in there premature, and that will just start to pull that back together again. So that's going in nicely. So we'll do the rest of the egg. Also, I might have just done it a little bit too fast. And at this stage, you could use a whisk, but it's just as easy to use a metal spoon. It does actually say sieve the flour, fold the mixture in with a metal spoon. I'm not a science geek, so I don't know why metal is a better thing to use. But yeah, I think I'm just going too fast on this. So we just add a bit of the flour and it just brings it all together. It's just a bit of magic. I don't know how it works. Right, so we've got that all mixed nicely together. So obviously I've already used some of the flour, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of the flour just to cover the top of the mix, and I'm going to mix that in. And the reason I'm doing it like this, you've chucked all of the flour in. As you mix it, it's all going to go everywhere. So once that flour is mixed in, we're going to sprinkle a little bit more. Just coat the top like that. I'm sorry about the light, guys. You're not going to believe me, but we're in Scotland and we've got lovely sunshine today. So sunshine ordinarily is very good, but when you're trying to make a video and you've got the light coming in the window, it's not so good. Oh, that tastes really nice. Right, there we go. That's going in. So the mixture's getting stiffer, obviously, because we're putting more flour. Let's get rid of that. So we've got more flour going in, so it's getting a lot stiffer. This is why because I'm weighing the eggs out of the shell, I'm going to get a little bit more egg, a little bit more moisture in there, so it's going to stay not so dry. There you go. It's starting to get sort of like bread dough mixture consistency. Not quite. There we go. Right, so I've got a little what have I done with that? Oh, I had that out. There it is. This is a really useful tool, because if you get everything from the side of the bowl, you can then push that down. Otherwise you're going to end up with dry bits and not so dry bits. Kids hate when I use that, because I don't leave so much in the bowl, and you know what it's like as a kid, you like to get to lick out the bowl. Right, and that's the mix. It's quite a stiff mix, but as you can see, there's plenty of movement in it. So the next trick is, I'm going to leave that in there. We need to grease 2 tins. Now, the problem I have when I turn the tins out, when it's cooked and you turn them out, it still sticks in the bottom. So I'm going to tell you how to eliminate that. So we need to line the tins, and I'm just going to do this the way my mother used to do it. She used to rip off a little bit of the paper from the butter. She used to just get a little bit of it and then just rub it in with the butter paper. And you might think, when I show you what I'm going to do next, you're going to say, why line the middle? But I'm going to do it this way. I've seen people do, they put butter and then they put flour in the tins, and that's fine. But I think with something like this, you're going to get a little bit of dry bit on the bottom. So I think this is going to be quite a short video today, because most of the time doing this is really waiting for it to cook. Right, so we've got 2 lined tins. The next thing we want to do is close this drawer so we can open the other one. I've got 2 drawers at 90 degrees, so you can't shut one until you've opened one, until you've shut the other one. Right, I want 2 pieces of greaseproof paper. This is going to protect the bottom of the tin. Oh, my fingers have got all greasy. Right, now this is roughly double the width of the tin, so I need 2 pieces that are going to fit the tin. It doesn't have to fit it fully, it has to fit most of it. And what we're going to do, we're going to make a very quick and easy bacon tin lining. So we're going to need scissors, and we're going to need greaseproof paper. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold the piece of greaseproof paper in half, right? And then along this edge, we're going to fold it again, and we're going to keep folding it as much as we want, so that this is always the middle of the greaseproof paper. And then we're going to get our tin. We're going to place this as close to the middle as we can. And then where that meets the bottom, we're going to cut that off there. And then when we open this up, we've got a rough circle, you see? And we're going to place that into the bottom of the tin. Now, I have got this almost correct, but it's just a couple of areas where it's coming up the side. That's not a problem, but make sure this gets right into the corner of the tin, because otherwise it will affect the sponge. And because you put butter on the bottom, it's going to help the greaseproof paper stick to the tin. So there we go. That's a tin lining. So that's going to stop the cake sticking from the tin. So I'll do that again for you. Hopefully you can follow. Let's do it on here, because yeah, you'll see it better. So we fold it in half. We then fold it in half again. So this is the middle of the paper, and we're just going to keep folding it as many times as we want until we get this is the middle of the paper. We're then going to measure roughly from the middle of the tin to about there, and it's all come undone. I do apologize. There we go. So if you cut this too big, it really isn't a problem, because we've lined the side and the bottom of the tin. In fact, this is actually, look, you see that's too big. It's really not a problem. I didn't do that too big on purpose, I promise you. But we'll go with it. Actually, that is way too big, sorry. It's better to be slightly under than over. So we'll just cut a bit more off there. But like, you can always take away, but you can't add, can you? So that's a little bit too big. So just make sure I get it right into the corners. Can you see that I'm just pushing that in? I've got a fingernail, but if you don't have fingernails, maybe use the back of a spoon. If you just use the spoon handle, that'll work just as well. But you just get that right into the corner. Don't worry about any small bubbles, because the weight of the Victoria sponge will just push that down. Right, so next thing we want to do is fill our tins. And the way I do this, I just put one big blob in the middle of the first one, an equal sized blob in the middle. Whatever you do, you probably will not get these exactly the same, and that's really not a problem, but as long as they're roughly the same. And I'll get as much out with a spoon as I can, and then the rest I'll get out with my little spatula, because I can really, that's as much as I could get out with a spoon. Once you start using your spatula, you can really get a lot more out. Look, there's some more there. There's a bit more. Can you see now why the kids don't like my bowls? Because they don't get an awful lot of bowl to lick. Can you, I mean, does anybody relate to that? Used to get to lick out the bowl when mum's finished making cakes. Right, so once I've done that, I can see that that's probably not. We'll have a look. So I'm going to push that into the corners, but push it from the middle like that, and just get it right into the corners. I think this is going to be a large one actually. So push it in from the middle like so. I'm sorry about the light, I really am. So, and the weight of the mix will push outwards anyway. Obviously we're giving it a head start. So once it hits the oven, it's all just going to level out, but you know, try and get it as level as you can. And then we do the same with this one. So starting from the middle, we want to just push towards the edges. Oops, I'm going to drop this tin in a minute, aren't I? You guys just know that I'm a walking disaster with this. And that we've got a little bit of secret licky bit there. I can have that myself. Right, so that is my 2 tins done. It's really that simple, guys. So what you want to do now is pop that in the oven. Now, it says in the recipe to cook for, I can't remember. Help. Right. Divide equally between the 2 tins. Bake for 25 minutes in the middle of the oven. I have a shelf ready on the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my Alexa to remind me to check on it after 20 minutes. Because there's nothing, it's not going to cook quicker than 20 minutes. But it really depends on your oven. So they've gone on the middle shelf. Echo, remind me to check the cakes in 20 minutes.
Okay, I'll remind you in 20 minutes.
So that is it. So now you've got about 20 minutes to get the washing up done. And I'm just going to lick that spoon before anyone discovers I've got it. So, sorry. Right. So let me catch up on the chat before I go any further. So best part is cleaning the bowl out. Absolutely agree. Sponge as in SpongeBob. I bet you that's Mike, isn't it? Hello, Mike. Chris Campling says, hi, Penny and everyone. Hello, everyone. And Chris Campling says, mine and Cheryl's favourite cake. Whoever that is, sorry. When you answer on Facebook, it just comes up as Facebook user quite often. So I really do apologise. I'm going to refer to you as Facebook user. So Facebook user says, looks good. Chris Campling says that was the best part of baking. And Facebook user says, yes, I used to lick. Right. So obviously I'm doing a live show. There's nothing to do for 20-25 minutes. So in good old cooking show fashion, I made one earlier. Unfortunately, I did have a bit of an accident, and unfortunately the top broke, but we can go with that. So once it's cooked, we're going to turn it out, and I will go through this again because that will be coming out of the oven during the show, but that will turn that out onto cooling trays, and I'll show you how I do that. So what I've done, a bit of a advanced bit for you. The top that is flattest, I turn that out upside down. So this is the top of the cake, top of the sponge, but it's going to form the bottom of the cake. And then this one, which was the more rounded one, I've turned that one out properly. That's going to form the top of the cake. So to make this a basic Victoria sponge, we've only got one thing to do, and I need to go to the fridge for that. So bear with me one sec. Lost it. Here it is. So no expense spared. I've gone and got, actually it wasn't very expensive, but I thought the jar looked very posh. So I'm going to call that my posh jam. So I've got raspberry, well, they've called this one raspberry conserve. And it comes all the way from Bristol. So bit of raspberry jam. Now mix it in the jar just to make it a bit runnier, and that'll just a bit easier to work. See how that's going to be easier to work with. And then just like we did when we were putting the sponge into the mix, we're going to work that from the middle outwards, and we're just going to give that a light coating. And I think I'm going to finish this one. No, I'm not going to finish this too early. Right, so spread that out. Go. I personally, I leave a gap from the edge of a couple of millimeters. If you're adding cream, probably leave perhaps a centimetre gap from the edge, because when you put the top on, it's going to push the filling out just a little bit. So obviously if you put a thick layer of something on, it's going to push it out more. Because I'm only putting a thin layer of jam on, I'm going to leave a much smaller gap. So there we go. See, I've just put jam on that, or whatever you want. Like I say, the Women's Institute recipe calls for raspberry jam, but you can put whatever you want on. And then the lid is going to go on like that. And let's finish that off with, I'm going a little bit off pieced hair. Because like I say, this is a basic recipe. You can then take it further. This is the Victoria sponge, exactly as per the Women's Institute recipe. Now, where you go from here is then up to you. I've been buying things from pound. Well, there's a little pound store we have, and they do various little things. So, if, for example, if you added this to the mix, this is ground almonds, so that would then give you an almond sponge, and then obviously you could use a different filling. We could ice the top. We could then write things with writing icing in it. There I've got orange, red and yellow. Here we've got some colour, so you could perhaps put a bit of food colouring in. Word of warning though, if you're going to put almonds in, I personally would replace the flour gram for gram with almonds, because obviously if you put almonds in but you don't remove some of the flour, it's going to become a lot drier. We've got some lemon extract there. You can make lemon cakes. Same mixture, just pop a couple of drops of that in, and we've got some sprinkles if we were to put some things on the top. But I'm going to keep this really, really simple. I'm going to get myself I would rather have a smaller sieve. If I had you know those little sieves you can get, they're designed for tea bags. I'd rather use one of those, but I don't have one, I'm afraid, and I can't find one. So all I'm going to do is, this is going to make a mess, and I do apologise, but half a spoonful into there, and then what we do is, you see me, we're just going to, I want more than that. A little bit of icing sugar over the top. And there we are. And unfortunately, the icing sugar is now shown off the split in the cake. But that is Victoria sponge. And I suppose you're going to want me to cut it open now, aren't you, and show you. So, oh, look at that. Nice and soft. Got a little side plate for it. There we go, guys. So that's a nice Victoria sponge. A piece of that perhaps in the garden with a cup of tea, and Bob's your uncle. Just bear with me, let me catch up. Chris Campbell says eating mini Victoria sponges from Marks and Spencer's. I don't know if I can do a better one than Marks and Spencer's, but you know, I'll give it a go. Chris Campbell says next we'll see Penny on British Bake Off. I'd love to go on British Bake Off, but I really don't have the skills to take it that far. And P40F20, send me a piece, LOL. Do you know what? If I'd thought about it, I could have sent you a piece for your birthday, couldn't I? Right, so how long have we got? Echo, how long till I check on my cakes?
Here is what I found, according to the United States Department of Agriculture.
Echo isn't always brilliant. Right, okay, so sorry guys, I'm going to have to taste. Big improvement on the last one because it's not crispy. Right, so let's have some fun. So as part of my here's what I did earlier, maybe you don't want to make a big sponge. Maybe the kids are making this, and you know what the kids are like. They like their cakes, their small cakes. So I made 2 varieties this morning. I put them in cupcakes. And what I've done, this is just straight Victoria sponge into a cupcake. And I put about half of the mix in. And the other half, I just put a spoonful of cocoa powder and a handful of chocolate chips. And this is what we come up with. So, you see those chocolate chips there. Sorry, bear with me a sec. Hello. Okay, come in, please. That's my friend. I'm so sorry, guys. That was an Amazon delivery. You know how they just pick their times. So yeah, this is my double. I'm going to call this a double chocolate. Well, actually, it's triple chocolate because I put a handful of milk chocolate chips and a handful of plain chocolate chips. And I suppose if you put chocolate icing on the top, it would then become quadruple. So yeah, so here we have a chocolate cupcake and we have a Victoria sponge. And these are, for all intents and purposes, recipe-wise, these are absolutely identical. I've taken the mix, instead of putting it into the tin, I just put some cocoa powder and some chocolate chips, and I've got something completely different. So let's have some fun with this while we're waiting for the sponge to melt. I'll just have a little look at it. Oh, it's definitely rising. It's now above the level of the tin. So how should we decorate these? We have got some sprinkles. We've got a little bit of this is something I've never seen before. This is like a gold powder. These I really want to use. These are edible wafers. And we've got some, it's too late to use the food coloring, but we've got some icing. So I think what we'll do, if I'd have put more mix in there, I could have actually cut the top off. We could have put a bit of butter icing in there, cut the top in half, and you've got fairy cakes. But what I'll do is I can't find my icing sugar. I had icing. Oh, here it is. I've just used it to sprinkle on the top. So what I'm going to do is with a cup, I'll use a glass so you can see what I'm doing. I'll use a few glasses. Sorry guys, I just need to take the headphones off. So let's make up some icing sugar. I'm going to use every teaspoon in the world, I think, to do this. And that's why I'm missing a teaspoon. I left it in the icing sugar. Right, so let's put in, whoops, 2 icing sugars into each. Now, icing sugar is not my strong point. I have a habit of making it a little bit too wet. But we'll see how I go. So a little bit of water, a little bit more water, oh perfect, I've actually done this right for a change. So with these blue ones, I think I'm just going to put plain white icing on. And the reason I want to put plain white icing on is because I want to use these flowers. I think these are lovely. These are, oh, one of them's fell apart. These are just a piece of rice paper with a dollop of icing sugar in, but they look like really nice flowers. And I just thought if we put them on the top like that, I thought that'd look lovely. So let's just a small dollop in the middle. This is in effect working like glue. So again, this is taking the simplicity element. That was extremely simple to do. I really wish I had a better camera, but so that's those ones done. So I think what I'll do with these red ones, let's try a bit of food coloring, shall we? This first time I've used these. When you use food coloring for the first time, only use a tiny amount because you don't know how powerful it is. Yeah, see that? You see how red that's come out? All right. So this one I'm gonna coat it in red icing or pink icing. So again, this is another nice simple one. We just take the basic Victoria sponge mix, put it into a cupcake when they've gone cold. This was done about 3 or 4 hours ago, so it's nice and cool. There we go. And this one, I don't really think there's enough to cover two, but I thought this one would be nice because I've got a pink, pinky red case and pink icing, and that will all nice and match up. Whoops. And all that sugar, the kids will love it, won't they? They'll be running around all night, hyper as anything. There you go, that one. That one I think I'm going to leave plain. I can't find that flat. There we go. Oh, that's not icing sugar. That's actually rice paper in the middle as well. But that's come off, so that's no good. That's what I would call a reject. That needs to be eaten. Right. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. It's me, yes. I need another spoon. Right, this sponge is starting to smell. You know when you get that nice baking smell. So I know it's almost done. I was thinking about icing the chocolate ones, but I think we'll just leave them as they are. Do you know when something is perfect, nice and simple, and you try to improve on it, and all you're going to do is make it worse? I think that's going to be the case with these. Just keep them nice and simple. And this one will have a white top on, just because I've already got the sugar out, the icing sugar. Right, I've done too much on that, so that's going to dribble. Right, so I want to try this powder out. So I was thinking that if we do just a tiny amount on there, it's going to give a little bit of a shimmer. Yeah, that's nice. There we go. What do you think of that one, guys? Is that... And then this one we could put some sprinkles on, put some star sprinkles on, and then let's have some tiny hundreds and thousands on this one. And there we go. I think that's absolutely perfect. So these I quite like because I think those flowers, they look quite elaborate, but they're very, very simple. And this one has just got a bit of pink icing on with a few sprinkles. This has got different sprinkles, so maybe if you're more into stars, that would be nicer. And this has got, I don't think that one's worked so well, but gold powder in it. So I can't really do much more now until the cakes are done. But I don't know. What do you think, guys? I think that's really tarted them up. So unfortunately, I needed to show you the end before I showed you the middle. But once those cakes have come out of the oven, we'll turn them over. As you can see, I'm an extremely messy worker, but I have no issues with that because I do clean up after myself. So, right, I'll just catch up on a few comments. Oh,
here's your reminder.
So that's Echo reminding me after 20 minutes. Echo, thank you.
You're welcome.
I do like Echo. She's so polite. So, so Facebook user. Oh, hang on, we've got not far enough, right? So Facebook user says, "I want cake." And she said, "Yes, self-raising flour." Fleetwood J. Oh, yum yum. Cake can't have any hospital. Oh, can't have any. You got hospital. Oh dear. Dave's Hobby says, "Cuppa and slice of cake. What could be better?" Yeah, it's just sometimes when it's just nice and simple, like cake and a cup of tea. What could improve on that? Apart from 2 cakes and 2 cups of tea. Chris Campbelling, they want cake walk. P40 says, all watching, hit the thumbs up button. Thank you, P40. And then Chris Campbelling says they want cake. Oh, cake, not cake walk. And P40F20, you need to make this for Eagle Squadron Flight Lieutenant Blake. Well, anyone's welcome to him. So Facebook user, I'm so hungry now, send me cake. And P40F20, the enemy of good is better. I like that saying. That's really nice. I'm taking that as meaning that when something is good, stop. If it's good, it doesn't need improvement because it's good. When I first trained as a chef and I was doing garnish and things, I was like, oh yes, put a bit of that on, bit of that, bit of that, bit of that. Next thing you knew, you had more garnish on the plate than you had food, and people couldn't find the actual food. And I just tried to make it so much better, and I'd actually overdone it. Right, so bear with me a sec. I need to get some cocktail sticks. I'll be back shortly. So the absolute best way to check if a cake is done is to pierce the middle with a metal skewer. But I don't have metal skewers, so I've got the next best thing, which is a cocktail stick. And I'll show you this again. But what you want to do is pierce the middle of the cake. And I would say that's not quite ready. I'm going to give it a few more minutes. So what we do is let's use this for an example. So when it's in the oven, you're going to pierce the middle with a cocktail stick. And if it comes out clean, as that has done, it's ready. If it comes out with any mixing it on the skewer or the cocktail stick, you know it needs a little bit longer. So unfortunately, there isn't much I can do at the moment until that's ready. But these, I think, are overdone. Remember, when you do cupcakes, they don't need cooking for quite so long as the Victoria sponge, because the Victoria sponge is bigger. It takes longer to penetrate the heat in the middle, whereas cupcakes, they'll just cook maybe 10 minutes short of time. So while I'm here, You guys are going to get to see me clean up. This is the worst part of the job, but you can't have the good bits without the bad bits, can you? If you've got kids, I'd get them to do it. You know, if they want cakes, they've got to clean up. In fact, get them to make all of it, and then they've got to clean up their own mess because it's their mess, not yours. How's that sound? Is that a bit of a nasty trick? Right. Yeah, I think that's fine. Right. So now what I do, I apologize I can't show because there's nothing on the hob to see. So I'm just going to get them out, get the tins out of the oven. And we can also feel, if we just lightly touch the top, it should spring back. Pretty much like a bath sponge. You know how if you touch a bath, let me see if I've got a sponge here. Here we are. So this is my washing up sponge. When I touch it, it springs back. This should do exactly the same. And can you see how it all moves as one? Now, what I need to do is I need to look at this. Now, this is how I do it. You may not do the same. Now, two things to know. Once I've got this on the cooling rack, this sponge is just pulled back a little bit. It's pulled itself away from the tin. So that's going to make it a lot easier to get out of the tin. Second thing is, this one looks like it's raised a little bit more than this one. So I'm going to use this for the top and this for the bottom. So this one, I'm going to turn the tray out and just tip it upside down. So this is going to become the bottom, and that will flatten that a little bit because you don't want a cake that's going to rock. So this is a just in case moment. Oh, look at that. Can you see how that just goes in there? Lovely. That really wants to come out of that tin. And the only issue we're ever going to have is in the middle at the bottom. But because we put that greaseproof paper in, it shouldn't cause a problem. So, sorry guys, let me put this. The easiest way to turn your tin out when you're doing it upside down is to take the tray, take the rack, and just tip it upside down like so. And then that should come away freely. Look at that. Perfect. So I'll still leave that for a few minutes. That's got a piece of greaseproof paper on it. Now this one is a slightly different story because we want it to be this way up. We've got to kind of double flip it. Now normally I would use a second cooling rack, but I've only got two, and that one is being used by the cupcakes. So I've done my double flip. You'll notice that I've still got the greaseproof paper on there. That is going to have to stay on there until it's cooked. But this one's been left for a couple of minutes, and we just carefully peel that back. Ta-da! So we have no sponge stuck to the bottom of the tin, and this one obviously will have to be turned. So I would recommend you leave that for at least 20 minutes, and then obviously once that's cooled, if you put jam on that now, that will just seep into the sponge and it will ruin it. So it's all you can do is leave it. So the beginning we saw at the beginning, the end where we put it together, there's our Victoria sponge. And instead of doing it like this, if you wanted a variation, there's our variation. And do you know, I'm really, really pleased with these cupcakes. I'm not I'm not saying don't buy packet mixers. I'm not a fan of them because the first question I've got is it is actually slightly more expensive to make your own. It's cheaper to buy a packet mix. And that might well be because sorry, I'm just trying to get the camera. That the reason it's cheaper might just be that they've sourced the ingredients in such bulk, they've got a bigger discount and they've passed that on to us. But I would suspect it's probably because of inferior ingredients. They're not going to use the better ingredients. Now, also with these packet mixers, I like butter in cakes. I think butter gives it a better flavor. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with using margarine, but even margarine, you don't see margarine or butter in a packet mix. So where's the fat coming from? So that must be some kind of strange fat. The third reason is if something isn't difficult, let's go back to P40 F20's comment. The enemy of good is better. How about if something is easy enough to make, why change that? I think you'll agree that this wasn't a difficult recipe. It's the skill really is knowing how. Once you know how to, we used a recipe that's quite generic, as in weigh the eggs, and then whatever the eggs weigh, that's the quantity we're going to use. That's actually how you cook in catering anyway. You chuck your main ingredient in, you weigh it or you estimate it. We don't weigh anything in kitchens anyway. But then everything is based on the quantities of that, and then everything else goes in around it. We've got a simple cake. I think it could have done with rising a little bit more. It's a little bit shallow. I've seen Victoria sponges this big. That's not a fantastic effort, but it does certainly taste nice. So maybe if I whipped it, got a bit more air in there, whipped the eggs up a bit longer, maybe. But if you came out with that for the amount of effort I just put in, I don't think that's a bad cake, is it? So there is our first cake on our cooking shows. My postman's going to be happy tomorrow because I said I'm going to end up with a lot of cakes. Make sure you knock on my door whether you got mail for me or not. My neighbour's going to get a bit of cake, so my neighbours are going to be happy with me today, aren't they? And I should have my friend popping around. Right, guys, so fairly short episode, but I think I'm happy with that. Next week, I want to make a little bit of a rule where I don't have to do a main course every week, but I will do a main course. If we do not a main course, I'll then do a main course the next week. So next week, this is a recipe I've tried once before and it didn't really work out, mainly because I missed half of the recipe out. So hopefully this one will be better. But we're going to be doing a moussaka, which I believe is a Greek dish made with lamb. If you're not a great lamb lover, I'm afraid it's not going to be a great one. The only drawback with lamb is it tends to be a little bit on the greasy side, and I forgot to turn my oven off. I can't tell when I turn my oven off because once you've turned it off, it still has the fan going to cool it down. But yeah, so we're going to be doing a moussaka next week, and then the week after, let me see if I can find it. I thought we'd do a banana loaf. Banana loaf is another simple recipe, and it's a really good way to get used to. How many people have gone out and bought bananas thinking, oh, that'll be enough bananas? And for one reason or another, the bananas didn't get eaten and they're starting to go off, or maybe they've gone black. Banana loaf is a really good way of getting rid of that excess banana. And I like bananas, so it's going to be a good recipe for me. And it's just one of those things, just like Victoria sponge, you can cut as much off as you want. You can have a thin piece, a fat piece, whatever you want. And then the week after, it's going to be another really, really simple one. Adrian's going to shout at me because I've set my show up, but I've actually set a new show up and he's already done one for me. Right, so the week after, I'm actually going to do something really, really simple, and it's a banana and bacon pasta. It's chicken, which is a nice cheap meat, bacon, which is quite a flavoursome meat, and that's going to be popped into it, mixed in with a load of pasta, and then we're going to do a bechamel sauce. Now, bechamel sauce is a white sauce, and from a bechamel sauce, you can then take that further and get lots of other sauces. So it's a really good basic sauce. But like I say, chicken is a cheap meat. We actually have a local shop. I made a chicken and bacon pasta a couple of days ago, and everyone agreed it was absolutely wonderful. And it involved one chicken breast and 1/3 of a pack of cooking bacon. Now, the local shop, the pound shop, they do what they call cooking bacon. And what it is, it's rashers of bacon that have been slightly miscut. Maybe it's the end of the piece. So you might get one really thin piece, one piece that's cut in half. You might get one that's too fat, one that's too thin. To present that bacon on a plate as bacon, like if you had breakfast with bacon, people would go, oh, there's something wrong with this bacon. But when you're using it for something like chicken and bacon pasta, you're going to be chopping it all up. Does it really matter if it's thick or thin or half a portion, or, you know? So I did that, and the pack costs £1, and I used a third of a pack. So there's costs about £2 to make a 6-portion food. So it's a nice little recipe. It's nice and cheap, and it's something a little bit different. So P40F20 has says, bananas, you need to give us a course on how to defend yourself against fresh fruit. Now, are you a fruit lover, P40? I said about buying bananas and you get some left over. I am very guilty of when I do my weekly shopping. Well, there's two things I do. Is firstly, I try to buy 6 bananas, and I think I'm going to have a banana every morning. But the second thing I do is I buy green bananas, because then I can let them sit for a few days and then they can ripen at home. And then what tends to happen is I don't eat bananas for a few days because I'm waiting for them to ripen, and then I forget about them. And then by the time I get to the end of the week, they've been ripening for a whole week and I've left with black bananas. And then that's when you need to do something with them. You've got 2 options. You can chuck them in the bin, which is a complete waste of buying food if you're going to chuck it in the bin, or you can find something to do with them. Now, the beauty of banana loaf is it's actually better if you use bananas that have gone black. If when your bananas go really mushy, banana bread tastes better made with those bananas. So normally when I prepare for these shows, I go out on a Wednesday morning, I go shopping, and I need to buy all the ingredients, just like I did today. You'll see that I've actually bought way too much butter, but that's fine. That'll sit in the fridge. Now, in the case of banana loaf, I'm actually going to have to buy the bananas a week in advance so that I can allow them to go black. But I also want to do a bit of an experiment. So it's not going to be for a few weeks, but I'm going to do a bit of an experiment. I'm going to buy some bananas the week before, and then I'm going to buy some bananas on the day, and I'm going to make 2 banana loaves, one made with yellow bananas and one made with black, and I'm going to see if there's a difference, and I'm going to see if I can taste it. So that is it really for this show. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've certainly enjoyed it hosting it. So let's have a look at what's going on this week. So tonight we have got the Partwork show. I'm on the wrong section, sorry. So tonight we've got on Build with Adrian's channel. Get ready, because all of the World War II puns are going to come out in a minute. We've got Build with Adrian doing the Partwork show, Spitfire issue 60 and the Terminator issue 110. That's at 8 o'clock tonight. Tomorrow night is Horlicks. He's doing the Terminator issue 104. That'll be at 7. And then on Friday, he'll be on at 7 doing the Spitfire issue 50 and 51. Saturday, this looks like it's going to be a fantastic show. We've got Yorkshire Crafter and Crafty Chris. They're doing a new show, Craft and Chat. That's going to be at 6:30 p.m. on both of their channels. Now, I really beg of you to just give them a chance and have a look at the show. When we do these new shows, a lot of times we need to interact with the viewers. So, for example, P40 has just made a comment. Eagle Squadron, we sortie with Captain Langley. And that really helps make the show good. Now, the trouble is when you do a first show, obviously not a lot of people know about the show. So not many people are watching it. And then as the show grows in popularity, then obviously more people are watching it, more people are making comments. So the toughest show is always the first one. So please, can you help out Yorkshire Crafter and Crafty Chris? Give their show a watch at 6:30. Help them along, give them a bit. I know that the first, for as long as I've been streaming, when I do the first in any series, even this show, I am so nervous, and I know they will be. So please help them out. Saturday we have Chris Davis. He's doing Jaguar 5859. That's 8 o'clock. Sunday we have Geordie Dave. He's doing the Northern Model Builders Show. That's 8 o'clock. Monday at 8 o'clock we have Chris Davis doing the Ecto 1 Stage 16. I believe that will be going out on Chris Campling's channel, as will the Saturday show. Tuesday is Build with Adrian, build the Ferrari F40 issue 38 right front wheel parts. And then Wednesday afternoon at 2 o'clock, sorry, just in case I forgot, Build with Adrian is going to be on at 7 p.m. Wednesday at 2 p.m. we have the Paint with Diamond show with myself and Yorkshire Crafter. I believe we're going to have at least 2 guests, but obviously that's got to be confirmed. And then Wednesday afternoon, 5 o'clock, we have Reddy Pennycook doing a Musaka. So I hope that's going to be really good fun. So P40F20 says, great show. Thank you very much. And here comes a Science Geeks. We love Science Geeks. Will be a difference in banana bread according to how ripe banana. Black bananas are more sugar. That I did not know. I just know that banana loaf or banana bread is better with black bananas, and that's all I know. And my mum always used to make it with black bananas, and I don't think my mum made much stuff that I didn't enjoy. So again, let's use that saying that P40 said, the enemy is good is better. If she makes a good banana bread, why try to improve it? Right, guys, so thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate your support. And I will catch you next week, if not sooner. Tally ho, everybody. Have a great time. Thank you very much.